Some people don't age, Goo. I'm serious.
Not the pretty things, Evan.
I don't know if it's.
You're not talking.
Well, I was doing it. Shut up, Black History Month.
Boy.
What?
Well,
right?
leap year. You said it was the shortest month.
You got an extra 24 hours.
Yeah, right. And Brianna, real quick here, Brianna, unapologetically black on Twitter.
Okay.
You set me up early with back of the bus, and I didn't shout out Rosa Parks. So I want to shout out Rosa Parks, and she tweeted me. Thank you, Brianna.
We can do that every single day for this month. We can shout out something of importance.
I'd rather not. Let's do it the whole year.
The whole year.
Yeah,
360.
there we go now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
365. 365. But the bus conversation has been not about who's in the back of the bus. Shout out Rosa Parks. It's who's driving the bus, right? Because that's what everyone seems concerned about, with Cam Newton talking about how Brock Purdy is the 10th best quarterback, or 10th best player on the 49ers, even 10th best quarterback, 10th best player on the 49ers. And I don't know if it's just him digging in, if it's him tripling down, if it's him feeling salty, if it's him speaking his truth. I'm not sure where it comes from, but we're talking about it at 888-957-9570 because I think it does get into a larger point. And again, you brought this up, Goo. Like, if Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter that you might be the 1st or the 10th or the 5th. It doesn't matter because your name is remembered in history as a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
No doubt about it.
Phil Simms, Brad Johnson, Trent. I know Phil Simms is better than them, but all the quarterbacks. Russell Wilson's got one. Aaron Rodgers even got one early in his career.
He got cobwebs on that thing.
Yes,
but
he
got one. And what's my guy, the substitute in Philly?
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
He's a legend in Philadelphia.
Take that from him, man.
He's a legend for that Super Bowl run that he was on. Joe Flacco. He's a legend in Baltimore. So it doesn't matter how you get it done. But here's where I want to go, and as we get into our draft, right? Let me just ask you this, Goo. If we're taking San Francisco 49ers players, because I think this illustrates the larger point that I took away from Cam Newton and his comments, not as much about demeaning Brock Purdy, but here's where I'm at. If we're doing a draft, right?
I'm ready.
Ooh, fire it up. The San Francisco 49ers, who's the first player you are drafting for your team on the San Francisco 49ers? Thanks,
I'm getting goosebumps. McCaffrey.
I'm with you.
All right.
Okay, number one. He's off the board. Yep. Number two.
Mr. Ohio State. Mr. Bosa, come on down.
I was going to ask if I can take it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I was like, Evan, you want me to do it? Go ahead.
I was going to take Nick Bosa.
All right, there we go.
Nick Bosa. Reigning DPOY.
Okay,
number three.
Mr. Deebo Samuel. Come on down.
Deebo Samuel, 3rd overall pick. Number 4, I'll take Trent Williams.
Okay.
Best left tackle I've ever seen in my life. I'll take Trent Williams.
All right, and with the, I believe, 5th pick, Dre Greenlaw, come on down.
Okay, I probably would take Brock Purdy in front of Dre Greenlaw.
All right.
I also might take Fred Warner in front of Dre Greenlaw.
Anyway, I messed up.
But still, okay, so that's right now. We've already got to 5 players.
Okay.
And we haven't taken a quarterback. That's not a knock to me on Purdy. That's just the reality of how good the roster is for the San Francisco 49ers.
And my next pick, or had it been your pick, Evan, would have been Brock Purdy.
Exactly.
So where's the shade in that?
But here's my point. Let's take your team now, the Dallas Cowboys.
All right.
If we're drafting players from the Cowboys, who's the first person you take?
Micah Parsons.
Who would be the second person you take?
CeeDee Lamb.
Over the quarterback, Dak Prescott.
CeeDee Lamb.
Okay.
Then it would be Diggs, the cornerback.
Okay, I would take Dak Prescott second on that team.
Wow.
Behind Micah Parsons.
Okay.
My point is, if we look at the rest of these teams, Cincinnati Bengals, who's the first player off the board?
Joe Burrow.
If we're looking at even a team with maybe a lesser quarterback, say the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's the first player you're taking?
Trevor Lawrence.
Their quarterback. I think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. He outplayed Dak Prescott in a playoff game. I think he's had a better year. I outplayed him in a regular season game.
Yeah.
To me, that's not a knock on Purdy. That's just the reality of the situation. And the Niners are in a position to win a Super Bowl, yes, because they have a quarterback that is better than his predecessor and that has been the most efficient passer in the league. But it doesn't discount the rest of how good that roster is.
All right, no doubt about it.
That is what I hope that someone like Cam Newton is really trying to get at instead of taking cheap shots by saying that he's the 10th best player on the team. That's clearly false. That's not true.
No doubt about it.
We just did the exercise. At worst, he's your 5th best player on your team. So that's not the case. But again, with the rest of the rosters around the NFL. Even, okay, the Chargers, people say that Justin Herbert is not a clutch quarterback. That's fine. Doesn't have evidence showing that he is, but he's still the first person you're taking off of that team. The point is, just because Brock Purdy might not be the best player on his team doesn't mean he isn't the right quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's the reason why he's sitting with a chance to win a Super Bowl.
No doubt about it. And I'll say this, Evan, on top of that, because you got me thinking, flukes don't go to the Super Bowl. Flukes don't get close to the Super Bowl. And I say that to say is last year we saw what happened in Philly. That opportunity was obviously, snatched out from underneath Brock Purdy. Nothing he could do about it. But I'm just like, you don't throw for 4,200 yards, Evan, in this league, our league, 31 touchdowns, QBR 73, and you're a fluke. I'm being so real with what I'm about to say. I got my phone blows up all throughout the Niner game. My boy Tone, he cannot take that Brock Purdy's doing what he's doing. Nobody saw it coming. But you talked about what's at the epicenter of Cam Newton's thoughts, the ideology behind him saying Brock Purdy's the 10th. Let me tell you, Evan, and I'm being so real. It's DNA. It's Brock Purdy's height. It's Brock Purdy doesn't have a cannon. It's Brock Purdy is not Michael Vick. All that stuff that we think is not on Cam Newton's computer or analytics, it is. And the sad part, Evan, is it's not just Cam. It's almost like we're watching this guy doing something in Brock Purdy that's too good to be true, or where he got drafted, we're not accustomed to pick those guys throwing passes, far less winning and going to a Super Bowl, Evan. So in my world, all that boils down to is jealousy. That's the only reason I feel like Cam Newton can say, and although Cam Newton got his team to the Super Bowl and his usage rate was through the roof, I get it. But this just reeks of jealousy if what we just did, our exercise, and I'll even give Cam the win. He knows more football than you and I. Mm-hmm. But to say 10th, that's where I draw the line and say, okay, now you have entered into hater territory. You are not – hey, Cam, how good is Brock Purdy at reading defenses pre-snap? I think he's pretty damn good. And that's why he won 2 playoff games last year and 2 playoff games this year, Evan.
Well, I think the biggest reason why he won the 2 playoff games this year is because of his ability to fight through a tough spot. Like, his second half resiliency was better than a lot of quarterbacks that I've seen in those spots. Let me just read you this. In the first half of the first 2 playoff games that Brock Purdy played in, he had a 56 QBR.
Oh, my goodness.
Pretty average, a little bit above.
All right.
In the second half of those 2 playoff games,
regular season,
91. Yeah. That's when you got to have it.
Cream rises. That's
when you got to be clutch. In the second half of games, whether you're up, whether you're down, Jimmy Garoppolo put you in a position to be up 10 points in a Super Bowl. What happened in the fourth quarter? He was opposite maybe the best quarterback of my lifetime, Patrick Mahomes, and a guy that's trying to get his 3rd Super Bowl. That is money time. And Brock Purdy, whether he's the 10th best player, whether he's your number 1 player, he is money in money time. And that is what mattered during the postseason. That's why they're sitting with a chance to get to the Super Bowl. It's not because he was 8 for 15 in the first half with a pick against Detroit. No one's going to remember that first half. You know why? Because they won the game. Again, history gets written based on the winners, not on the losers. And that is what is going to be frustrating, I think, about this specific team for the 49ers if they don't win the Super Bowl. Because I think this has been their best team under Kyle Shanahan. And I think Brock Purdy has been the difference for this team as opposed to the 2019 team.
Oh, man, I'm not mad at any of that. And it's just funny what stands in their way, Evan, is a coach that, when it's go time, Andy Reid could pull a rabbit out of his hat, and he's done that twice. And you talk about composure. In a crazy way, I think my respect for Brock Purdy has grown, Evan. The fact that they didn't come out and win 35-10, and we could just say, Evan could have quarterbacked that team because everything was perfect and the defense was dominant and they suffocated this and that. But the fact that it was ugly, and the word you used was resilience, and he showed that on the biggest stage twice. So that's better than him going out just kicking the crap out of a team and somebody naysayer saying, you know what, he wasn't really tested. He was in the mental grinder. He could have been his worst adversary. You know what I'm saying? He could have been his worst best friend, Evan, on that stage. You're like, you know what, the clock struck 12. I'm thinking of what Twitter's waiting on me when I get to my locker room to check the phone. So I look at that like, I know it's crazy. That was more impressive, the fact that he had to get up off the mat like Rocky Balboa and get it done at the end.